Hi guys. Today we're going to do Access Chapter 2 guided project. So in Access Chapter 2 we really get more into queries and all the different things that we can do with queries. We can filter and we can sort and we can limit our data that we pull from our tables based on certain criteria. And so that's what we're going to work on today. The first thing we're going to do is import the spreadsheet that you downloaded from the instructions. So I'm going to go to external data and I'm going to go to Excel. We want to import an Excel spreadsheet. So here's your import and link buttons and here's your export buttons. We want to import. So I'm going to say import from Excel, and you need to traverse down into where that file is. And there it is. It's the locations Excel spreadsheet, and click open. We're going to import the source data into a new table. You're going to show the worksheets and location, so that's perfectly fine, and you can see what the data is here, and hit next. You're going to select that the first row contains column headings, so say next. The location ID is going to, this field name, you want it to have duplicate, or you want it to be indexed but no duplicates. And then click next, and then we're going to choose our own primary key, and that's going to be location ID. That's why we didn't want duplicates, because your primary key cannot have duplicates. Then we're going to say next. We're going to take the default name, which is location, and click finish. Do not save your import steps and just say close. And now you have another table here called location. Now we're going to view the location table in design view. So I'm going to right click on location and click design view. And here for location ID, we want to change the field size to long integer. So down here you've got field size and it's set as double. We're going to change that to be long integer. And you're going to say save, and it's going to say, it's going to try to warn you some data may be lost, and you say yes, you want to continue. Okay, then we're going to close our table. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to start establishing relationships between our tables. So in order to be able to, for Access to be able to tell when rows correlate to other rows inside of tables, you have to have these relationships. So that, for instance, location, if the location ID in the location table appears in the members table, for instance, or I think it appears in the orders table, then Excel knows that when you say location ID in the orders table, that number corresponds to the number that's in the location table, and so it knows that that data is correlated together. Okay, so to do this, we're going to go to Database Tools, and we're going to click on Relationships. We're going to click our Show Table box, and we're going to enter in all of the tables, except for you don't want this MSysDB info table. Leave that one alone. And then close that box. It really does not matter what order or where you have these in this window, just as long as you have them. I like to make my screens a little bit bigger, or my tables a little bit bigger, so that I can see all of my rows, or all of my fields rather. Okay, we're going to create a one-to-many relationship between the location table and the orders table. So using location ID. So I'm going to click on location ID in the location table, and I'm going to click and hold it. And then I'm going to drag it over to orders, and I'm going to hover over location ID in orders and release. And you're going to get this button this window that comes up that says edit relationships. So you should see location ID in both of these, and you should see table here location and related table or query orders. So what this, and it says relationship type one-to-many. What that means, what does that one-to-many means, is that there is one instance of that location ID in this table, but there could be infinite numbers of references to that location ID in the orders table, okay? Which kind of makes sense because any location, you know, if you, for instance, well, any location, so you have a hotel and you have a location for that hotel. Are you only going to have one event at that hotel ever? Or could you have many, many, many events at that hotel? Okay, so that's basically what it's saying is that, okay, the hotel only exists one time, but it could have many, many, many different events that are associated with it. We're going to enforce referential integrity, and we're going to cascade update related fields. What does this mean? So this means, for instance, if I go into the location table, and I change location ID 5 to location ID 20, it's going to go and follow that link, that relationship to the orders table and update all of my location ID references that were 5. It's going to update it to 20. That way, that integrity maintains itself. And then we're going to say create. And you're going to see this line that's created. And here it says 1 to infinity. That means 1 to many. Now we're going to do the same thing between the members and orders table using the mem number. So I'm going to do mem number to mem number. And I'm going to enforce referential integrity, cascade update related fields. Make sure it's a 1 to many. And make sure mem number is in both of these. And say create. And then I'm going to do between the service and orders table using service ID. So I'm going to do service ID from service to service ID in orders. And again, you're going to enforce referential integrity, make sure it's 1 to many, and say create. Once you've done this, you're done creating the relationships. You need to save it, and then you can close your relationships window. Okay. Next, we're going to create a query. So I'm going to go to the Create tab, and I'm going to go to Query Design. So in Query Design, you get this little window. It kind of looks like the Relationships window, except for you have these fields down here at the bottom. We want all of your tables, except for, again, the MSysDB info table. So you want the 4 tables that we're using, location, members, orders, and service. And close that. And then this is important. You need to add these fields in order that they have listed. Okay, because if you don't, then it's going to get graded incorrectly. So we want the service date from the orders table. So I want service date. Now you can double click on this field that you want, and it will put it down in the first available field that's there. So I'm going to double click. So I got service date. I want city from the locations table. I want number in party from the orders table. And I want the service name from the service table. And then I want the first name and the last name from the members table. And there we go. Now we're going to set the criteria in the city field to limit the output to Denver. So here's our criteria line right here. Okay. On your criteria line, it says, okay, this is how we want to change or how we want to limit our data. So in this case, we want to limit our data to only those that have the city of Denver. So we're going to just type in Denver here, and you'll notice it puts it inside of quotes, which is what it's supposed to do. But then not only that, we want to limit our service dates from July 1st of 2017 to June 30th of 2018. So in here, we're going to use something that's called a between command. And we're literally just going to type out between this date and this date. Okay, so we're going to type in between, put a space, and you're going to put 7/1/2017. And then you're going to put a space and type and you put a space and do 6/30/2018. And then it will modify it and put these pound symbols in here to signify that they're dates, so on and so forth. So it does that for you. Okay, and then we want to say we only want those records that have 2 people in the party. So I'm going to put a 2 here. And then I'm going to save this query as Denver rooms 2 guests. And say OK. Okay, now if we run this query, you'll see we have the date, the service date is in between those dates. It's the city Denver, and they have 2 people in that party. So we've only got 1 person or 1 reservation for that. Okay, but we want to change how this looks. We want the first name and the last name to appear before the service date, because it kind of makes sense to have that, right? So we're going to go back to design view, and we're going to move first name and last name to before service date. So how do you do this? If you hover just above where it says first name, you'll see how the cursor changes to the solid downwards arrow. If you click that, it selects the entire row. Now click the header, where basically where your cursor already was, and drag it over. That black line is saying if when you release your mouse button, that's where I'm going to put that field. So we want it at the very beginning, so I'm going to put it at the very beginning. And then do the same thing for last name, only this time last name is going to go between first name and service date. So you should end up with first name, last name, service date, city, number and party, and then service name. Save your changes and run it, and you'll see how it comes up properly this time. And now you can close that query. Now we want to duplicate this query, only we want to do it for Chicago instead of Denver. Well, we don't want to have to redo that query. All we want to do is change it from Chicago to Denver. So I'm going to right click on this, and I'm going to say copy. And then I'm going to right click anywhere inside of this this white space, and I'm going to say paste. And then I'm going to say, instead of copy of, I'm going to remove copy of Denver, and I'm going to say Chicago. And then now we have that Chicago query. We're going to right click on that and go to design view. And now, instead of saying Denver for city, we're going to say Chicago. And then you can save your query and run it, and you'll see now your city is Chicago. Then once you're done with that, you're going to close the query, and you're going to close access, and you are done. Submit it, and you're good to go. I hope y'all have a great day, and we'll see you for Access 3.